A guest brought in a black dress that he claimed was worn by Marilyn Monroe in the classic 1959 film.
It's from Marilyn Monroe, and she wore it in the film Some Like It Hot. A friend of mine, Don Feld, who was a costume designer in Hollywood, gave it to me.
Have any idea where Don got it?
I don't know, but I assume he probably got it from Western Costume Company.
The appraiser identified the designer of the dress as Ori Kelly, an Oscar-winning costume designer known for creating many of Marilyn Monroe's film looks.
You brought some photographs of Marilyn actually wearing this dress in Some Like It Hot. The dress was actually created by Ori Kelly,
Yes.
the Oscar-winning costume designer. He did a lot of clothing for Marilyn. He created the dresses specifically for her.
The dress was described as made from black peau de soie, a luxurious satin-like fabric, adorned with fringe that gave it a sense of fluid movement. Additional evidence of the dress's provenance was provided by labels sewn into the garment.
And it identifies the dress as having been worn in the movie. And then we have a label here with Marilyn's name on it.
These details, along with accompanying photos of Monroe in the film, supported the dress's authenticity and historical value. Given the iconic status of both the film and Monroe herself, the estimated value was.
Auction, I would not be surprised at all if it went for somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000.
Oh my God. Whoa.
The guest brought in an old painting that had been essentially forgotten within her family for over 50 years.
It was stored down in the basement, and then when my husband's parents passed away, he inherited it. We've had it for about 25 years, but just had it stored up above the bookshelf at home, and it wasn't until we watched.
The artist was identified as Sanford Robinson Gifford, a highly significant 19th century American landscape painter.
Now, Gifford is a very, very important Hudson River artist.
Really?
He was considered one of the great luminist painters. Now, luminism referred to the landscape painters that saw nature as sublime, and they created this sublime in the light in their paintings.
The painting itself was an oil on canvas and depicted a scene from Italy, painted during Gifford's travels in Europe in the 1850s. The appraiser also revealed that Gifford's signature and the correct date were visible in the lower left corner. Despite its dirty condition, the value suggested by the appraiser was.
The insurance value would be about $300,000.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
An exquisite painting had been in the guest's husband's family for generations.
It's been in my husband's family for a very long time. It was passed down to his parents, and then after his parents passed away, it was passed on to us.
The appraiser identified the work as likely being by Cornelius Krieghoff, a prominent 19th century Canadian artist.
What he's really known for are these wonderfully vibrant genre scenes.
This particular painting included a sled, a mother and child, and scenes full of movement and narrative detail. Due to Krieghoff's popularity during his lifetime and beyond, many forgeries of his work existed.
And we really looked at it, and the quality of the piece, the style of the piece, and the provenance of the piece led us to come to the conclusion that there's a very, very strong chance that the piece is right. I would certainly consider more research for the painting, but everything falls into place. The original frame, which has been painted with radiator paint, I suspect.
Given the piece's quality and apparent authenticity, the estimated auction value was.
I would estimate the piece at auction between $200,000 and $300,000.
Oh my God!
A piece of jewelry was purchased by the guest in the late 1970s or early 1980s.
And I got it at Robinson's department store in their estate sale department. Actually, my husband brought it home and surprised me.
The appraiser identified it as a signed Tiffany & Co. piece, but went further in recognizing its significance and craftsmanship. Upon examining the materials, the appraiser highlighted the presence of two beautiful black opals.
The larger opal is slightly crazed. The smaller opal is in perfect condition. Both opals are what are known as patchwork opals with lots of play of color, with lots of red, which is a very desirable color.
What elevated the piece even more was not just the Tiffany & Co. stamp, but the distinctive craftsmanship that indicated it was the work of Louis Comfort Tiffany himself.
Really? And And his work was signed Tiffany and Company after 1907. I believe it dates to the teen. It is beautifully handmade and a very desirable piece of jewelry.
Given the current market trends, the estimated value was.
The value today is somewhere average retail between $70,000 and $90,000.
Oh my God.
It's a
You're
treasure.
kidding me. Well, thank you for making my day. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, is that a big surprise?
The guest shared the fascinating backstory of an extraordinary piece of English furniture she had purchased around 30 years ago.
There was a dealer here in town, a very bohemian sort of lady, who got interesting pieces. She would never tell you their provenance, so I have no idea from whence it came from her.
The appraiser was immediately impressed, describing the cabinet as one of the finest examples of English furniture he had seen. He detailed the cabinet's exceptional craftsmanship, highlighting its intricate elements.
It is so exciting to see this cabinet covered in needlework. And we have this incredibly elaborate base. Lion's paw feet.
Oh, hairy paw feet, yeah.
Hairy paw, exactly, with the hair coming down the leg, trailing down. Let's look at here. Trailing down, and then at the top, of course, these very fierce, bold lions.
Wonderful lions.
All of these elements, the flower heads, the acanthus leaf scrolls. Look at the drapery,
the beautiful
draped
drapery.
across, and laurel leaves with a beautiful shell and bellflower. And then this wonderful design on the top, these curled bellflowers. It even goes to the back, and it's carved on the inside of the legs, which is so beautiful.
Upon opening the cabinet, the appraiser admired the extensive needlework inside, which featured pastoral scenes.
Scenes are great. The shepherdess here with her cane. It looks like he's proposing to her. The condition is wonderful. And of course, the sides are done as well.
A label found on the cabinet was confirmed to be from a later regilding, rather than original to the piece. The condition of both the needlework and the cabinet itself was described as exceptional. In its current state, the estimated auction value was.
We would place an auction estimate on this piece of $80,000 to $120,000.
A distinguished work of art was presented for appraisal. It was the work of Maynard Dixon, a notable American painter born in 1875 in Fresno, California. His artistic philosophy focused on simplicity and authenticity, deliberately avoiding melodrama in favor of capturing the essence of the American West as truthfully as possible.
And he moved to San Francisco to study art. He was born in 1875, but he didn't really enjoy the academic atmosphere, so after 3 months he dropped out of school, and he's really considered a self-taught artist.
The painting in question featured a sweeping panoramic landscape, a hallmark of Dixon's work.
The title, which is recorded on the back of the painting, is, "I looked on my valley and it was beautiful."
The appraiser praised the painting's beauty and uniqueness and provided a valuation of.
I think at auction, this might bring as much as $20,000 to $30,000, maybe even a bit more.
Wasn't that something?
A guest brought in a large folk art portrait featuring 2 children, Anne Jacobs and her brother Joseph Jacobs.
The people that owned it, the parents died, and the children had no room for it anymore, and so I was able to buy it from them. They were distant cousins.
Anne was born in 1835 and Joseph in 1833, which led the appraiser to estimate that the painting was likely done around 1838. A unique aspect of the piece was that it depicted 2 children in one frame, something rarely seen in folk portraits.
It's a wonderful Ohio painting. There's very little body of work to talk about Ohio folk art portraiture. It's not sand, which is typical of folk art paintings.
The painting remained in its original frame, which was considered a positive feature. However, it had undergone some conservation. The canvas had been relined, and minor inpainting was evident in certain areas. Despite these restorations, the children's figures were lively and appeared to almost leap off the canvas.
What else is so great about this is that she's holding that wonderful cat. You can see the cat sort of squirming there.
Not too happy.
Not too happy. He's holding this marvelous pull toy, and I love the little red yarn that's attached so he could pull it along. It gives the painting just a little splash of color. And here at the top, we have the dress and the wagon.
Right.
That certainly adds value to the painting. Does it add 20% to the painting? No, but it's nice to have it all together as a package.
Given its desirability, the current estimate was.
We all agreed 30 to 40,000 estimate was. We all agreed $30,000 to $40,000 is an easy estimate for this, and there might be a lot of upside if it were to come to auction.
A vintage guitar belonging to a guest's father-in-law was displayed.
This was my father-in-law's guitar, and he purchased it from his brother, who was a professional musician. I just know it's a 1938 Martin, and he played it all the time. He really enjoyed it.
The instrument was identified as a Martin D18, a highly sought-after model, especially among bluegrass and folk musicians. The appraiser shared detailed features, highlighting that the guitar's back and sides were made of mahogany, a wood prized for its tonal qualities and responsiveness in recordings.
The front of the guitar is made from spruce that came from the Adirondack Mountains.
Really?
The interior of the guitar included stamps and serial markings identifying it as a Martin D18 made in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. The guitar top was lightly overcoated with varnish for protection, with no effect on its value. Given its condition and the advanced bracing feature, the guitar would have a replacement value of.
But that's not a big deal, because in today's market, the replacement value of this guitar with the advanced bracing would be about $28,000 to $30,000.
Okay. Wow. Oh my. He would be so proud. It's such an honor for him. It really is. He was such a great guy.
A fascinating historical artifact was offered by the guest for appraisal.
How did you acquire it?
We received it from neighbors who lived across the street from us in the 1950s. And they were an elderly couple who didn't have any family. And one day the lady across the street brought it over and said she'd like us to have it.
The appraiser immediately recognized it as the most thoroughly documented early gold rush item. The cane bore a presentation engraving that made it a valuable historical piece.
And on this flute, it says, manufactured out of an original piece of timber of Independence Hall in the city of Philadelphia.
The top of the cane featured a decorative setting made from a fragment of the Liberty Bell, the very bell that rang out the news of the Declaration of Independence.
And this bell is manufactured from a fragment of the bell. They were trying to patch the bell, and they took some metal, several pieces of metal away, and they made this bell out of it and imprinted on the end of that cane. They also made a few souvenir rings and stuff for city councilmen and dignitaries.
Importantly, the cane came with impeccable documentation, which enhanced the item's historical and monetary value. Given the artifact's excellent condition, rarity, and comprehensive documentation, the estimated value was.
I estimate the value at $20,000 to $30,000.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. Well, that was a wonderful gift.
It was.
The guest brought a handwritten letter penned by his great-grandmother, Virginia O'Hanlon.
And when she was 8 years old, she asked her father if there was a Santa Claus. And to avoid the question, he told her, if you see it in the Sun, it's so. And he was referring to the New York Sun newspaper. So she wrote a letter to the editor asking if there was a Santa Claus.
This letter led to the now iconic response by editorial writer Francis P. Church, who famously wrote, "Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus." The appraiser noted the extraordinary significance of having both the original letter and the editorial response preserved within the family.
And the response from Mr. Church has been reprinted hundreds and thousands of times in many, many languages all across the world.
Though still intact after years, the memorabilia was at risk of deteriorating, so the appraiser advised professional preservation. Given its status as a treasured family heirloom, its estimated value was appraised at
between $20,000 and $30,000.
That's impressive.
The guest presented an original Peanuts comic strip from 1955.
It's a Peanuts cartoon that a dear friend of mine had in his collection, and he identified with Charlie Brown quite a bit. And he had the opportunity to meet Charles Schulz in the 60s and asked Mr. Schulz to autograph it for him.
It was drawn by the legendary cartoonist Charles Schulz. The appraiser identified the artwork as an original daily strip from that year, part of the earlier era of the beloved Peanuts comic. There was a minor condition issue, such as a bit of foxing, small brownish discolorations often seen on aging paper. Given the significance of the artwork, the monetary value decided was.
I would still easily estimate this at auction at $10,000 to $15,000.
Really?
Yeah.
The guests shared an extraordinary story about how they came into possession of a rare and historically significant passport.
I went back to the estate sale and bought some albums and 45s. When I got home, I was going through them, and out of an album fell this passport. And so it literally fell into my hand.
It was revealed to be Marvin Gaye's 1964 passport. The appraiser expressed excitement upon seeing the passport, pointing out that it was dated 1964, which was a key year in Marvin Gaye's life and career. The passport captured a moment when Gaye was still young and optimistic, transitioning from being a session drummer to a rising solo artist.
He had such a journey with Motown. He started out as a session musician drumming. He's on Stevie Wonder's Fingertips Part 2, the live version, doing drums. Played drums on Please Mr. Postman. He did all these great things, and then he slowly worked his way into the duet.
The appraiser emphasized that the passport's collectability and rarity significantly increased its value.
And passport collecting is a really vibrant collecting world because there's usually only a few of them throughout your life. You only replace them every so often.
The estimated auction value of this significant piece of memorabilia was.
For insurance, I wouldn't put less than $20,000 on the passport if you were to insure it.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding you. Nothing comes up from Marvin Gaye. It's not a really common thing to see Marvin Gaye memorabilia.
I never would have thought. I mean, I'm just shocked. I mean, wow.
A rare and remarkable collection was being presented for appraisal. It prompted the guest to recall a vivid memory of meeting Andy Warhol in the 1980s.
He was all over New York all the time, and I asked him in a nightclub if he would sign some soup cans for me. And the guy's like, sure, you bet. Oh, bring them by my studio tomorrow. I'm like, okay.
The collection included a print, a stack of interview magazines, and signed Campbell's soup cans. Andy Warhol was an American visual artist, film director, and producer. The appraiser confirmed that the print dated back to the late 1960s.
This one's great. What really makes this print spectacular is the color. It really pops. This is actually from the late 60s. And of course, you have the wonderful dedication on the back.
Speaking about the interview magazines, the appraiser noted that Warhol often personalized them with playful drawings and humorous annotations. The appraiser then turned to the signed soup cans, highlighting their strong provenance.
Let's talk about the cans. Again, this is something Andy did. His iconic work on the Campbell soup can, people began to bring cans for him to sign. What's great about your cans, a number of them he signed twice.
He signed twice, yep.
Now, as far as the cans go, these have become very collectible, obviously, over the years. And he signed a lot, but it doesn't matter because they're very, very iconic and people love them.
Given the historical significance, the value of each item in the collection was estimated to be.
If I were estimating these at auction, I would estimate the individual cans at $1,500 to $2,000 a piece.
Nice.
Yeah. The interview magazines are great, and what's really nice is that he did the little extra touches. He signed a lot, but he didn't always do the extra touches. I would estimate those at $1,000 to $1,500 a piece.
Shut up.
Not at all. A conservative estimate at auction would probably be about $15,000 to $20,000.
No! Mom, did you hear that? We're going to Acapulco for the weekend.